Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Casually Christian presented by Livestream My Event. For those who are joining us for the first time here at Casually Christian, we talk about people's lives, their passion, and their interests. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit like and subscribe and smash that notification bell to catch our latest episodes of Casually Christian. So people who've been, know me, my friends, my family, they know that I'm into puppetry. I love ventriloquism. I've always been into it. And that's why I have my buddy in the background, Carlos. And I wanted to reach out to a puppeteer, and I was following this person, Connor Asher. I seeing his story on Instagram. It's awesome because he's making a living doing his puppetry. And for no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Connor Asher to Casually Christian for the first time. I really appreciate it, buddy, man. I know like you're busy, and for you to take a little bit part of your day to talk to us for about your journey into puppetry, I really appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. No, thank you so much for having me on and being persistent and patient. I'm so glad to be here today.
So where are you at? Like, are you in Michigan?
Yes. So for the last year and a half, I've been in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Had to, upsides, downsides. Yeah. I was in Chicago forever, and that was my hometown where I grew up and where I started my business. And with the pandemic, I could not afford to live there anymore, and so I had to pack up bags really quick and move out here. So rent has been a lot cheaper, which I can't complain about.
That's always good, man, because it's okay if you have to buckle down, but it's as long as you're with somebody that you love. I don't know if you're together with like somebody, if you have a girlfriend. Yeah. So I mean, like that's all that matters. If you guys are happy and smaller, it means that you're going to be more intimate with each other, right? So it's fine.
Sure.
And plus, in the pandemic, I would imagine that you're pretty busy. You still had things to do. You're still creating your puppets, and
definitely.
Let's start from the beginning, man. Can you tell us how did you get into puppetry? Like, were you into that like in elementary school? Because I know people who are. I mean, it's been part of their lives. It's part of their identities. So, is that something that started your journey from such a young age?
Absolutely, I am pretty similar in that where puppetry has always been a part of my life, one way or another. Mm-hmm. As a kid, I grew up watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street, and those were the two shows where I was like constantly glued to. I knew that there was something really special about them. Mm-hmm. And with that, my parents bought me a couple puppets when I was a kid, and I would play with those all the time. I'd put on little puppet shows in the basements and would have, neighborhood kids and friends and family sit on the basement stairs and just watch my probably terrible puppet shows, but I love them.
That's cool, man. Like as a kid too, like I made some puppets through socks. I remember I created like a sock puppet, but I never really, because my background is film and I pursued film, but you were following the puppetry, which is really cool. And at what point in your was it in high school that you said to yourself, I'm gonna pursue this? Tell us your journey after high school.
Definitely. Yeah. So I did a lot of puppets as a kid and was always doing artistic things. Long story short, my basement flooded and I kind of forgot about puppetry for a long time.
Yeah.
Just because all the puppets are gone.
Was it because of a storm or is just some pipes broke?
Yeah, there was a big storm in Chicago a couple of years ago that flooded so many basements, and so everything was ruined and washed away for a little while. But it was definitely tough. But growing up, I was always doing things within the arts. I was doing video production for a while, lots of drawing, lots of writing, and in high school, through one of the people I started working with, he told me, it was like, hey, this new Muppet movie is coming out. You should go watch it. Mm-hmm. Okay, sure. And then my life was changed.
And what was the puppet movie?
It was when Disney brought back the Muppets in
Hmm.
2011. So it was the movie with Jason Segel and Amy Adams, and that
Oh, okay,
was,
yeah,
yeah. It was just kind of, it was one of those things of like flooding back all the memories.
yeah.
Like,
It
was
sparked
glued to
that
the
passion in
screen.
you again, right?
Yep, I knew that there was something special there. And then a few months after seeing that, I saw Kevin Clash's documentary, Being Elmo, and that was the
Yeah.
first time curtain was pulled back. I got to see, everything that happens below that you, at least for me, I
Hmm.
never thought about. I never thought about the puppeteers and everything that went into that to bring those
Same.
characters to life. And so once I saw that, I was like, yep, that's what I want to do. And so 10
And here you
years
are.
later, yep.
That's awesome, man. I
Yeah.
watched that documentary too. It was on Netflix for a while, and I loved it. There were like, in I don't know if you watched this documentary about ventriloquism too. It was on Netflix for a while, and yeah, it was really cool because like there was this lady, the family disowned her because she was a ventriloquist. Yeah, and
Oh my
she was really
goodness.
nice. She her puppet was like a bird, and like she was really like it's really about the movement that really sells the puppet, and she was really good at it, and it was really sad. And then like in the end of the documentary, she was reconnected with her son, and they had a moment. But it's not like,
Mhm.
was your family pretty supportive about this? Because I know some folks, they get a little, it's like, what are you gonna do?
For sure.
Yeah,
They never were, they never put me down about it.
that's good.
And they've always been as supportive as I think they can be. None of my family is in the arts at all, so as far as like understanding what
Yeah.
goes on, and especially like the business side of it, because it's like, oh yeah, you do it for fun, like it's a whole nother ball game. So they're as supportive as they can be. I would say my probably biggest family influence was my
Mhm.
grandmother, because she was the
Mhm.
one who was like full gun ho, like would sit at, like she was the one who would sit on my basement steps, just sitting there watching me do puppet shows over and over. It's like, keep going, yeah, let's like go
Yeah,
for it.
don't
So
stop.
yep. She was definitely my big supporter.
So I saw recently that you were in that you got into the Jim Henson workshop. And how did that happen? Like, what was the requirements of getting into that program? And was this your first time in Los Angeles? Because the Jim Henson Company is in LA, and I was going to film school, like, and it was close to the Jim Henson Company because I went to film school like about 15 years ago, and seeing that building, it was almost seeing like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory because the gates are closed. You know what I mean? It's very mysterious, and that's every time I see it, it's like I want to get in there. And that you got the keys and you got in there, man, and you met like a lot of talented people in that workshop. So how did what was the application like, and I guess talk us through it.
Sure. No, I know exactly what you mean. I We'll have to talk after about film school and everything, because I would love to hear more about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, we could
um
talk about, it's like this is a casual
okay,
conversation. You ask me questions and we'll back and forth, we'll get to know each other. But yeah,
sure,
let's start with you because you're my guest, and if you want to ask me questions about film school, anytime, anytime you want to
absolutely.
ask.
Okay. Well, as far as Los Angeles, I've been there. I was lucky enough to go when I was younger, so in high school, like when I discovered puppetry and so forth. My mother more so was really supportive and trying to push me to like go out. If you want to go to a convention, you want to go meet these people, you want to
Yeah.
try to network and everything, like go for it. And so that's a lot of what I did in high school. It was a
Mhm.
lot of just flying out by myself and
Oh wow.
getting to meet some of these people within
Yeah.
the industry and get to know them and kind of
Was that
mentor.
intimidating?
Yes.
Yeah, because you were, a kid. I don't know how old you are right now. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. No, I'm 24 right now.
24. Oh, okay, you're still
Yep.
a young buck, but still,
Yep.
I mean, to me, grown-ups who are doing this and you're a kid, it's pretty intimidating. It's like, should I talk to this guy? He's gonna think I'm weird. But yeah, that's awesome, dude. And awesome that
Definitely.
you did it at such a young age. But like, yeah, yeah, I'm sorry that I took you away from the story.
No, not at all. Nope, that's what it's all about. But yeah, would go out there, and so I've definitely been to LA a few times before going back there. And same every time I passed by the Henson Company it was a very similar feeling of
Yeah.
like, Willy Wonka, let me in. I'd
Yeah.
love to go inside there. But as far as what do you call it? The process for how this whole thing happened. So a few months ago, the Henson Company put out an open call, looking for. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they put out an open call for looking for puppeteers with diverse cultural backgrounds. For me, I'm Puerto Rican, and like my whole mother's side is all from Puerto Rico, and it's something I've been trying to embrace more and more, because
your
definitely
heritage.
like, yeah, it's one of those things for sure. Like, I know for me, I've always kind of been put down about because of like, oh, I'm super pale, and so I just look a certain way.
I know you get
But
marginalized, right? You know, yeah, it
yes,
sucks. Yeah, I get marginalized all the time, man. Like I'm putting gas, and some lady she wanted some money. It's like, I'm sorry, sir, I don't speak any Spanish, but can I borrow some money? I'm like, I speak perfect English. But you know,
yes.
I totally feel you, man. So like, so you're embracing your heritage, and you feel like with the puppetry, like you're you're showcasing your background.
Absolutely. Yep. So there was a lot of that, and same even just when that call came out, I was like, I'm not sure. Like, this is the thing that I've been wanting to do
Yeah.
forever. But like, am I the right fit for this? Does it feel right? And so I had, luckily, some friends and family, and my lovely, lovely girlfriend like help push me. It was like, yeah, like this is who you are. Like, don't be afraid. Like, do it. Go for it. And I'm so glad I did. So it was a open call they put out on social media looking for puppeteers to train with them for 3 weeks. And so I sent in my stuff.
Yeah. And what was the
Headshot,
stuff that you sent
resume.
in? Oh, headshot.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
Yep.
a reel?
Headshot.
Was it a reel too?
Yep. So I sent in my puppetry reel, which I just finished a few weeks before my new one.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, this is perfect. Okay, great. And sent those things off, and then based off of that, it got to a second round. And so if they liked what they saw,
Yeah.
then they contacted me and was like, okay, we're gonna do a Zoom and
Like an interview.
in-person audition. Yeah, like a Zoom interview. Yep. And so it was Kevin Clash, who was Elmo,
Yeah.
and he was running the whole puppetry side, and Patrick Bristow was doing the improv. And so that was their two big focuses for this particular workshop, was improv and puppetry. And got to audition with them, and I
Did
guess
they
they liked me enough and
did he throw you
brought
did he
me
throw
in.
you some curveballs like in the improv now, like do this? Like how did like what was some of the questions, or what did they have you do in that interview?
Absolutely. So I came on and just got to talk to them casually before, and
Yeah.
then afterwards, okay, bring out your puppet character. And they really specifically wanted an adult character, a more grounded character, not a kiddie character. And luckily I have, a couple that I could
Yeah.
pull from, and worked on rebuilding this troll character that's very near and dear to me. And oh, we had so much fun. And so I just let that whole thing go off with the troll, and then afterwards they were like, okay, we want to see you, what do you call it, we're gonna call out the different things that we want to see. Here's the personality, here's the voice we're kind of looking for. Let's go. And
Wow.
then went back and forth with them. So yeah.
Is it tricky to develop like a different voice? Like
It's
does it throw you off,
yes,
you know?
yes and no. The voices, I guess, aren't so hard. They kind of come very naturally to me, at least. It's one of those, especially if you go into more like voiceover work, which I do occasionally.
Yeah.
It's something where it's like, okay, you've got those couple voices you can pick from. You've got the one at your deep throat voice, you've got your nasally voice, you've got your head voice, and kind of a combination of putting all those things together. And sometimes, a bad impression can make a totally new character. But yeah, I'd say it's pretty secondary. It comes super naturally to me as
I
far as
see.
voices. The improv side is
Mhm.
the side that I'm more so uncomfortable with. Like
Mhm.
I've always been able, to do live events and like, yeah, bounce off of people. But as far as like improv theory and everything super
Yeah.
regimented, that was very new to me. Um,
Well, you must have done something right because
yeah.
they accepted you. Like,
Yep.
so like that was the last stage. That was the last interview, and then they gave you
Yep.
like a letter or like a notice or something. What was it like? They gave you like an email. It's like congratulations.
Yep.
Yeah,
So it was
that's a good feeling.
I think a little over a week wait of just like, ooh, am I gonna hear back? I think everyone was feeling the same way who
Yeah.
applied, and then I got the email at like 3 in the morning. And it was like, yeah.
You're like
So
yes, yeah.
yep. So it was
How
it was
many
ju- it just
participants?
there were over 2,000 people that applied,
Mhm.
and I know they interviewed so many of those people,
Yeah.
but only 30 people. I think
Wow.
no, not 30, 32 got in.
That's well.
Yeah,
Congratulations,
which
man.
was thank you. Yeah, it was wild for sure.
What was an experience when you were doing the workshop that like what was something that you learned that you didn't know before? That's a lesson that that you took back home.
Sure. A lot of it was definitely sharpening up some skills, and cuz for me I try to, practice my monitor puppetry and puppetry just in general as much as I can. Um but one thing that was really nice for me was the ability to really get to work with some other people, cuz puppetry as
Mhm.
an art form is just it can be so isolating, where you're like a lot of people tend to do everything themselves. I'm one of those people.
Yeah,
And so working with other people, really like learning how to fill up the frame, really learning how to bounce off of other people was a big thing for me. And that
yeah,
was a lot of the improv side. As far as
I gotcha.
manipulation, it was definitely sharpening up those skills. um
So like, with
yeah.
for doing like a project where like there's a tight crew, like a tight puppetry crew, and if somebody has to step down, does that affect the performance? Like I'm sure like the person behind the puppet gets replaced, but does it affect the mojo of the performance, or is it just you know what I mean? Like, does it does it change the function of the show after somebody who's been with the show for a while that they get replaced? Does it?
I think so.
Yeah.
It depends on to what extent. So like with some of the, because I've done a couple like kids TV shows
Hmm.
and things like that, and there was definitely times where they'd put one puppeteer, like they would bounce puppeteers around. So it's like, okay, you're gonna do this puppet for this scene, you're gonna do this puppet for this, and
Hmm.
it was very noticeable in the end product where it's like, oh, he looks like
I see.
he's moving really nicely here, and then in the other scene it's like, oh wait,
Yeah,
that
it's a
it's
different
kind of
person, like
yes.
personality, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep, exactly, because so much of it is personality and
yeah.
really bringing that character to life. And when you sometimes it can be disguised really, really well and no one knows, which is one of the wonderful parts about puppetry.
Yeah,
It's all through your hand, so you don't see what's underneath. So if someone can really convey that, and like a really wonderful example I think
mhm,
is Eric Jacobson. He's the one who took over Miss Piggy and Grover and a
mhm,
lot of Frank Oz's characters.
yeah.
And when he first came on, it was I know for a vast amount of people was like, I can't tell the difference. um,
That's a good thing
but
because like it
yeah,
has to. It's the character, It's like as long as that puppeteer captures the essence, the the personality of the puppet, and then the puppeteer is a did a good job.
absolutely, yep. And like as it all goes to to what extent. I think TV and film, like especially because so many of those puppet characters, they a part of the puppeteer like soul, they really go into the puppets. Like I know with just a few of my own characters alone, like so much of myself goes into those.
Yeah.
And to where if you give that to someone else or
It's like almost
someone
like
else
an
gets it.
alter ego, something like that,
Yes.
right?
Yep, exactly.
And what was the like in the workshop? Did you guys have to develop like skits or like shows, or were you guys given like a play to act out, or like what was the show that you guys produced at the workshop?
Sure. So it was a 3-week intensive.
Uh,
We were there from pretty much 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day. Their whole soundstage was where we worked, and it was broken into 4 different sections,
mm,
one teacher in each section, 2 improv teachers and 2 puppetry teachers. And the 2 puppet teachers were Donna Kimball and
mm,
Kevin Clash. Donna was working really, really well on puppet technique and manipulation, and Kevin was definitely working on puppet choreography and like being
mm,
like a puppet captain. Um, and so it was really nice as well. Like for me as a puppeteer, and I know so
mm,
many other folks can probably vouch for this, just seeing how they work and how they think while they're working and coaching
mm.
and teaching. Um, but so to go back, sorry. um, Yep, it was 3 weeks of that. So we did puppetry in the morning and then improv in the afternoon. There was a couple different groups, so
That's
we were all
cool,
kind of
man.
split up in COVID pods, masked up, and
Yeah.
we were all fully vaxxed and COVID tests every couple days just to keep up on it, which was wonderful on the Henson Company's part.
Yeah.
And
And is Kevin Clash, is he a nice guy? He seems like a pretty nice guy, like on camera. Is he like pretty strict? Is he a strict like mentor?
definitely, yep.
Yeah.
I only got to know him through teaching role, but yeah, he's definitely he's hard, but he is very, very good at what he does. And
Right
he
on.
know like, yep, he's a very because that's the thing too, is a like, through these past few years I've become a instructor and I've taught a bunch of workshops
Yeah.
and have a deep appreciation for people who know how to teach.
Mm.
And everyone knows how to teach in different ways. He's a very hands-on person, I'd
Okay.
say, for sure. Like
That's good.
very physical, like direct, and he sees a picture in his brain and that's what he's trying to get out.
And like I see
So
like how you're doing that with your hand, and like is that like something they had to do first, like get practice to like getting that form, and then you get into the puppet? Like, do you know what I mean? Like you practice first like this with the what's it called? The plates? I seen those plates.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
practice
yeah.
plates.
You can use the mouth plates or usually the practice peepers. So it's like those 2
Oh
eyes,
yeah,
like
that's right.
ping pong ball, and then little eyes. Sorry.
That's like that's the introduction of puppetry, right? Like learning how to do that. Cause like I saw that you're supposed to talk with your thumb, right? Cause like you don't talk with your mouth, like the upper mouth.
For sure. Yeah, it's one of so when I conduct puppetry classes, that's one thing that I'm really big on, of
Mm.
starting everyone off with, we're going to get down what's in here before we worry about what's external, because
Yeah.
this is what truly matters. Like this is your puppet skeleton, and if this isn't right, nothing else is going to be right. So particularly for television puppetry, where you're really focused on precise movements,
Hmm.
and especially eye focus, because that was one of the big revolutionary things that Henson discovered when learning how to work this way, was to get that really intimate feel with your audience, is have that puppet look at camera. And
Mm.
it was that kind of intimate relationship with the
Yeah.
audience that really made those characters feel alive. And then of course the ability for the puppeteers to see what they're doing while they're doing it, so that they can frame their performance and everything. But yeah, I definitely would start out with the eyes, because then you can practice focus and then just basic lip sync. So
Okay.
anytime you open your mouth, you open the mouth of the puppet. And yeah, those
Yeah,
are those. I'd say those are the two big ones for television style puppets, and then you just keep adding on layers.
because I just barely started like getting into like I bought like a puppet, and like it's kind of difficult, getting it down because like I'm using this to move the mouth, and I know you're supposed to do it the other way. And I'm still practicing. How often do you practice to get? Because obviously it's a muscle. Like the more training you do, the better you get at it. So do you practice for like 2 hours a day, or at least do you set some time to do that to get your training?
Except you said it perfectly. It's one of those, puppetry in particular,
Mhm,
especially TV work, working with monitors, is a very difficult skill,
mhm.
and it's one, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like I know for myself, over uh, prior to the workshop, was I was just almost exclusively building. I was doing very little performance like I used to, and so I wasn't, you know, getting as much routine practice as I could.
Yeah.
Um, because it's like I said, very different avenues, with going into puppetry. Are you a puppet builder? Are you a puppet wrangler? Are you a or
Mhm.
just a puppeteer? And being a puppeteer has a lot of, you know, what a typical
It's
it's
a
very much
performer,
what it
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a performer, it's an actor, and it's just a different form of it.
I love
So
it,
for
man.
me,
Like, what's a
yeah,
puppet wrangler? What's a puppet wrangler? I never heard that. Is that like they collect the puppets and they distribute it to the puppeteers, or like what's a puppet wrangler?
yeah, that's yep, you
Oh,
got
that's basically
you're
it.
close to
I
it.
just threw a dart. I was like, oh, that's
So
what I think.
yeah, so a puppet wrangler, it's basically makeup and wardrobe for puppets.
Oh, okay.
So those are the people who are usually on set with puppeteers. They're the ones who, are
Get
taking
the
care of the
phone.
puppets at every moment. So if something rips, a seam ripped
Yeah.
open during a scene, something needs to be rigged to the puppet's hand, they're the ones who would take care of all of that. And, you know, puppeteers ready to perform and
Mhm.
it's time to put puppets on, they would come over and help
I
fit the
see.
puppets on. And yeah, they're
They're taking care of the
so
puppets.
important. So important. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. I didn't know that. I didn't know. I didn't know that was their duty. I thought it was just like they just collect them and then like they nurse them if they stitch them back up. If they get damaged or something. But
Exactly.
I saw
Yeah.
that you also build puppets too. You also build your own creatures. So you're also not only a performer, you also build your own characters.
I do.
And how long does that take? Because it's craftsmanship. Because this takes this one's like mass produced, but like something um, like with yours, like you're doing it you're on your own. Like you're starting it from like the foam, like how long does that take? Or it really depends on the character.
Yes. It depends a lot on the character. um so the way this, it depends on what you're starting with. Like, do you already have the patterns, or are you making everything up from scratch? For me, especially when I'm designing a custom puppet for someone or even myself,
Yeah.
it always starts with a design of some kind, and seeing that design, especially if you can get it from different angles to really see all the different shapes, and
Mhm.
then start breaking that down. And then once you have those basic shapes down, you make patterns, and then it's just a process. So typically for me, when I'm building a custom puppet, it can take anywhere from 60 to 180 hours. It
Wow.
depends all on complexity and
I see.
what's going into it. And same, every project is different. There's some skills that are transferable, and like
Yeah. Like
it's like,
you're
cool,
learning
I
from
made it.
each one.
Exactly. Yeah, there's always new skills. Like in the last year, I made a Einstein puppet, and that character had 3D sculpted hair, and to
Mhm.
cover all of that was
That's pretty
a
sick.
nightmare.
I bet you were pretty frustrated. It's like, why isn't it working?
Yeah, it's building for me. It's It's enjoyable. I am definitely a performer first. Building
Mhm.
is always secondary, because one of the things, like the thing that brings me joy for what I do, is knowing and loving bringing characters to life. And so whether that means building or performing, but building is definitely secondary for me.
Yeah.
um just
And
because, yeah, just because it's really really time consuming, and
have you
it's definitely.
have you built
Oh, sure.
a puppet that like the eyebrows move or some kind of like movement in the facial? Have you done something like that?
Definitely, yeah. There's every I try to stay away from it because
Uh,
animations and mechs like that
uh-huh.
can tend to have a lot of problems over
Yeah.
time. Like, it's one of those, like, oh look, it broke, now we need to send it back and fix it
Oh,
up, or whatever
okay.
happens. But it's something I will try to
Stay
do
away from.
occasionally. Just it depends on the character. Like, it's
Yeah.
one of those, I think a lot of people tend to overuse and abuse it,
Hmm.
where not every puppet needs a mechanism. I think for me, puppets are really effective if it's something that helps make the character stronger.
Hmm.
So, like, with this troll puppet I was talking about earlier, when I recently rebuilt him,
Hmm.
one of the things I wanted to do that I didn't do the first time was add in an eyebrow mechanism, just to really help give him different expressions. Like, if he wants to be surprised, he can do that, or
Yeah.
if he's really mad and angry, which he usually is, he's, can really frown.
Yeah.
So it depends on the design. I try not to as much, but I have definitely made quite a few.
Have you thought about making like a ventriloquist head? Like with the puller, like the pulleys and all that. Have you ever tried doing that, or is that like too like? Because I looked into it. It's like this is a lot. It's like I'm not. I don't have the patience or the skills to do that. And I was wondering if you wanted to do that, like if you try to approach to create like a ventriloquist puppet.
Sure. Yeah, it usually depends on the project. I've built kind of any. I've built almost. I feel I've built many different styles of
Oh,
puppets,
okay.
because that's one of the things. Like, there's, when going into puppetry, it's one of those. What kind of style do you want to do? Do you want to do a
Hmm.
little bit of everything? Do you want to just focus on marionettes? Do you want to focus on the hand rod Muppet style puppetry? What do you want to do?
I
So
see.
for me and my company in particular, that's like I definitely specialize in Muppet style puppets, but I am not afraid of the other ones, and
Mhm.
I love using other styles of puppetry when I can.
Do you love a challenge? Like you
I
don't
do.
shy away from it? Oh, that's good. That's good. That's how
Yeah,
the more like
because
because you step out of your comfort zone and you get something that you didn't think that you would be able to accomplish. And the sense of accomplishment when you actually do it, it feels pretty good.
definitely, yeah. There's, it's different skill sets for every different style of puppets. Where, you're using a rod puppet, you're just
Yeah.
learning how to manipulate and control that rod. Uh, Marionettes, it's working with the strings, not getting them tangled, and
Hey, did you go to
it's
the
very different
did you go to the
for each one.
Bob Baker Marionette Theater in LA? Did you go to see that when you were over here in Los Angeles?
I went. So yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I went to their old theater where they were
Hmm.
before
Yeah,
they
because
moved.
they're
I have not
relocated.
been to the new one. Yep.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
been to
I've
the
not
new
been to the
one
new one yet.
because they were there for a very long time. And actually, like the Bob Baker Marionette Theater, it's one of the oldest puppet theaters here in the United States. And it was, I think, let me see, it was founded by Bob Baker in 1963. So yeah, they've been Bob Baker. He actually helped Walt Disney create the Pinocchio ride in Disneyland. If you guys don't know about that, like all the puppet shop and all that, it's all is designed by Bob Baker. That was pretty cool. That's a little factoid for you guys. But like when I was a kid, that was a field trip, and as I was growing
Mhm.
up, I'm like, what was that theater that I went to? It seemed like a dream because it was like in kindergarten. I'm like, did that really happen? And then social media, I finally found this. Like, of course. thank you, Facebook. Because I was like, okay, so it wasn't a fever dream. It like this actually exists. And as soon as I found out where it was, I bought some tickets and I took my boyfriend to go see a show, and it was great. It was awesome. And
That's amazing.
did you go when you were a kid? Oh yeah, you did. You were there when it was in the old location.
Yeah, I went there like I think in 2017 when I was
Mhm.
there for something else. But marionettes were something I was definitely exposed to as a kid. So kind of going back to the roots besides TV. One of the big influences for me
Mhm.
was going to Navy Pier in Chicago, and there was a marionette show that was there happening all the time, and that I was like, anytime I went with my parents, I was glued to. I stayed
Yeah,
there. I watched. I probably went up afterwards and was like, "Can I play with the puppets? Can I play?"
yeah.
With, you know,
Please.
um,
Yeah.
and that was Dave Herzog, uh, and he's been doing marionettes forever, and he is one of my dear mentors and
That's cool,
friends.
man.
Yeah, and so like I said, marionettes are no stranger.
Yeah.
I love them anytime I can, but
Because like I'm over
definitely.
here close to Tijuana, so like we would go to TJ when I was younger, and they have like the vendors when you're going towards the border, and they sell the marionettes. So I remember every time I came back, I always came back with a marionette puppet until like it got all jacked up because of the strings. They all got tangled because I was a crappy kid. And I'm like, yeah, it's broken.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
Marionettes were not good for me as a kid because
yeah.
I would tangle them almost instantly, and then was just like, oh, cool, I have a stuffed animal now.
Yeah.
It's no longer going to be a puppet.
My favorite marionette from that I brought from TJ was Popeye. I remember that very vividly. Like
Hmm.
it was cool because like he had like the arms, it was wooden, and it was like it's one of those things I wish I could go back in time to get that because it was a really cool puppet.
Was it
Uh,
one of the Pelham puppets?
no, it was
That's
like one of
I'm
those
thinking.
one of those vendors that like in Tijuana, like like it was like handmade, like like that type of
Gotcha.
puppet.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, so I haven't seen it since. So it's a memory now. um, but yeah, like I got into film school, and I know that you wanted to hear a little bit about my background. I went to
Yeah.
the LA Film School, which was really close to the Jim Henson Company, and I remember doing some errands for productions, always passing by it, and always wanted to go in there. And still to this day, I still haven't gone through the gates. But I studied film directing. I'm a writer as well, and then my producer, we did some short films about like close to 10 years ago, and he hit me up that he wanted to do like a podcast, and I'm like, let's do it. So we've been doing Casually Christian for close to like over a year now.
Wow.
Yeah, because during the pandemic, he hit me up like in March of 2020, and we've been doing it since March of 2020. So we're still going every other Saturday. But it's been pretty cool, man. I mean, a lot of interesting people like you.
That's great.
Like,
Yeah,
do you
but
want to like? What's your like goal? Like, what's your dream? Like that end. Like, where's your journey taking you? Where you wanted to go?
sure. Honestly, I'm still kind of figuring it out
Mhm.
because the pandemic for sure has really shaken up my business and what I do. Like I've talked about it before a little bit. Like when everything hit, I lost about 80% of my business
Yeah,
all overnight. All the shows, all the workshops, which were,
tough, man.
yep, yeah, about 80% of everything
Were there any
all
programs that
gone.
helped you out? Because I know, like, when the pandemic was like hitting hard, I was hearing these programs in Long Beach for struggling artists. That like,
Hmm.
because we're you're performers, you make your money performing, and nobody's doing anything. So there were programs over here to help artists out. Were there any programs that helped you out being an artist?
There were a couple small ones,
Yeah,
but nothing
major.
sufficient. Yep.
Yeah, damn.
So that was, yeah, because it was a bummer too, in particular because a few months before COVID hit, I finally opened 1,000 square foot studio space in
Hmm.
Evanston, and was like, cool, I'm going to teach classes from here. I'm going to do the shows
Yeah,
and do everything in here.
it's
And
good.
then had to close it all down once that hit. And so it was like, I can, who knows where this is going to go. And
Yeah.
with where it's gone, it's like, I'm glad I made that decision
Mm.
to move everything back home, because it's different, but it is, it helps save a lot of money. And there's, it's always joys of like, oh
Of course.
my gosh, it's not a 30-minute hour commute to go to work now. I can just walk over to the other bedroom and I can start making
Yeah,
things.
I got you, man.
So I can't
Um,
complain.
with I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, I was looking at your Instagram and I saw that you got into this puppet chain letter, where like
Yes.
different puppeteers send like a part of the body of the puppet, like from conception to end. And can you tell us a little bit about am I pronouncing it correct? Is the puppet chain letter?
Yep. No, yeah, you got it
Yeah, there
perfect.
it is. It's right there.
So that the Puppet Chain Letter was a project that was started by Swazzle, and they're a puppet company based out in LA.
Hmm.
Um, and so during the pandemic a few months ago, they reached out to a bunch of different puppet builders, myself included, and had this idea of, hey, what if we all make a puppet together? Everybody contributes to a certain part,
Hmm.
and then we end up with a finished product. And that finished product, not only is it something for all of us to kind of like come together,
Yeah,
make together, and get to all know, but then we can auction that puppet off, and all the proceeds that we get from it, we're going to help give back to the Puppeteers of America. So speaking of one of the things that did help out enormously
mm,
during the pandemic was the Puppeteers of America. They're an organization of puppeteers, and any
yeah,
puppeteer that's in America, like they're a part of
I
them.
see.
And
Yeah, like
so
and
one of
you built the arms. I saw that you were building the arms for it, and I saw like the video where like you were putting it on the body, and that was really interesting because you were putting like wires inside the arms, and that was neat. And like,
thanks.
how much did you guys end up selling that puppet for, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't remember the exact price. You'd have to check on Swazzle's Instagram, but I know
Yeah.
it was not 2 grand, but it was a little over a grand, which
Okay, that's cool. It
to
went to a good
me,
cause.
yeah, it's like that's a steal. Whoever has this puppet, they are lucky.
How much does a
um,
puppet, like a custom puppet, how much do they usually range? Because I know they're expensive because they're custom,
for
and the
sure.
craftsmanship. So it's for me, like, of course it's going to cost like 2,000 or even 3,000 depending on like the design, how much time you spend it. Like, how much do you charge for your uh creations?
Sure. It all
Again,
depends on the
depends.
project, deadline, everything else. It's one of the things with custom. So yeah, you had it right. Like custom puppets take so much time, so much
Mm,
effort. It's a lot of, especially when you're working with a client and it's something so specific,
yeah,
it's a lot of going back and forth with them of, is this right? Here's one sketch iteration. Are we on the right path? Do we like the same colors? Okay, we
yeah.
got to get this thing out by a certain time. So for me, I charge a couple $1,000s,
Mm,
usually about
yeah.
5 grand now, but it
Okay.
always depends on
Yeah, that's about the price
the
for
puppet.
a quality puppet.
Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yep, just a lot of work, a lot of output. Because like the little girl puppet I think you were showing a little while ago,
Mhm.
that puppet took like 5-6 months to make, which
Mhm.
was ridiculous amount of problem solving.
I mean, it
Um,
looks great. Like that, it's huge. Like it's really neat. Like that one, yeah. I
yep,
mean, that's really cool, man. And that was for a client.
yep, that was for a client. It's a a children's author in Chicago
Oh, that looks
was
great,
connected
man.
to me, and has this whole series that they're doing with puppets. So we got the contract to build all the
Right
puppets,
on.
and so that was the main character, and we're working on building all the rest now. So
Oh,
it
congratulations,
was
dude. Because I know like
yeah,
the competition is stiff because like there's other people who are there's more they chose you from a pool of other artists, and I know it's
for
hard to get,
sure.
and I hear my puppies fucking barking in the background. Do you hear my puppies?
Nope.
No, oh, okay, good. They're distracting me, but anyways, um, what's one of the best advice you could give somebody who's starting out puppetry, who wants to get into puppetry? What's something that you could give them?
I'd say just go for it. Like truly, honestly, I know one major thing, and especially I think the older some people get,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you get more in your head about things.
Yeah, that's
I know
true.
everyone struggles with that in some way. Like, just go for it. Like, if that's something you want to try to do,
Mm-hmm.
go for it. Like, if you will find the time. It's just a matter of starting. And then in addition to that, because that was one thing for me before I settled on, okay, puppetry is what I'm doing. Here
Mm-hmm.
we go. All cards in. I did a little bit of everything. I was doing storyboarding, I was doing illustrations, I was
Yeah.
doing sculpting. And then at one point was like, okay, no one knows what I do. I don't really know what I do. And there's only so much time. I'm going to focus on puppets. But even within puppets, there's so many different avenues. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
there's the performer side, there's building, and then there's wrangling and
Mm-hmm.
so many other things in between. But that's also one of the joys that really attracted me to puppetry in the first
Mm-hmm.
place as a profession. Was it's one of those things you'll never get bored, because it's a combination of so many different art
Yeah.
forms, and that's the thing that I really love about it.
Have you gotten any haters along your journey? Really?
Oh
You
yes.
seem like a really nice guy, I don't see anybody
Thanks.
hating you, Yeah, I got some haters
There's
too, man, because like so far, like these last two videos, I got like a dislike on YouTube. Oh my, somebody doesn't like me, you know?
jeez. It's I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep. YouTube is tough, because that was an avenue I did for a little while, and I don't know what it is with puppetry, but
Yeah.
the
Oh, I see. They're
there's a
trolling you.
lot of there's a lot of really wonderful people in
I see.
puppetry, but there are some bad eggs too, and those bad eggs
Yeah.
are bad.
Yeah, I got you. Like, I guess it
Yeah,
was in any
but
industry, right? You're always gonna have
exactly.
those guys, and that sucks because like puppetry, like it's very like wholesome, And not,
Yeah.
not all of it, because I don't know if you've seen this Puppet Time Murders, or what was it? It was you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
What
Yep.
what's the movie called?
Happy Time Murders,
There you
right?
go, that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's definitely, it deserves the R rating.
Yes. Yep. No, I am fully with you. It's and that's one of the shames, especially with puppetry. That was one thing that I really loved when I first started. Was like, it's a very inclusive art form. Everyone's like really genuine and
Diverse,
supportive
yeah.
of each other. Yeah, and especially diversity. Like, but that's a big thing for me. Like, when I decided I was going to start teaching, I've been teaching since how long have I been? Probably 8 years now, a little over 8 years. And that was a big thing from the people that I learned from. I learned from some teachers
Mhm.
who were, I have a degree and I know everything.
Yeah,
And they were horrible teachers.
yeah,
And then the teachers that I found when I started like going off and doing my own things were the teachers who were, no, I don't have a degree, but I'm teaching this because I want to pass down this art form,
yeah.
because I love it, and they've backed themselves up with the work that they've put out. Like, they've worked on
Absolutely.
incredible things, and just like, yeah, I want to teach this. And that was something that was really important for me when I started
Mhm.
teaching, was to be supportive, because there's
Yeah,
no reason not to. And yeah, the
yeah.
world,
I don't see
the
how
puppetry
anything
world is
hurts.
small. Yeah, the puppetry world is so small. Don't burn bridges.
Yeah,
Like, there's no need you know to be in competition with anyone else. Like, it's all like, raise each other up.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what it's
I
all
feel the
about.
same way, man. And what's something that you wish you knew when you were starting out as a puppeteer? Like something that, you know what I mean? I know there's a lot of hurdles like along the way. What was something that you wish you knew?
Absolutely. For me, I wish I knew more of the business side
Mm,
before I started. I have learned many valuable lessons doing what I've done through trial and error.
mm.
And luckily, I've had some mentors and friends pass down things to me you know, to pass on what they've
Yeah,
also
yeah.
gone through.
Because
It's one of
I'm
those,
pretty
yeah,
sure you get a deposit before you start working on the character, right? That's a big,
exactly.
that's a,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Contract, like everything. That's one of the things of like not even negotiable anymore. Like
Hmm.
anytime I do a custom puppet for anyone,
Yeah, you
there's
got
a
to get that.
contract.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, there's a deposit for me. I try to honor the 50% down, and that's your deposit. That's non-returnable. That goes towards materials, research, time, everything, and
Mhm.
then the other 50% once the puppet's ready to be shipped.
Right
And
on.
everyone has their own ways of doing things, but
Yeah.
that's one thing. If I were to go back, because a lot of what I've done has all been through trial and error and
Mhm.
figuring things out, would be, mm, yeah, probably business side.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I say that.
I think that's with every performer, because you think about like it's just the performance, but it's the entertainment industry. You know, you're supposed to learn the business side of it. You know, how do you get your bread? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, like I agree too. Yes, there should be like a business class for every like performer. You know how to handle like, because there is no business class. There's just like how do you work on your craft, how to, they're giving you the tools to be a good performer, but you don't want to get used. You need to get your money, to do it. So yeah, I totally agree, man.
Yes,
Um,
it is. Exact. Yep. Exact. It's very easy to be taken advantage of if
mhm,
you are a nice person, and especially in puppetry,
mhm,
because in puppetry it's one of those, like, it's already so looked down upon.
mhm.
It's, oh, you're wiggling a dolly.
Yeah, yeah.
That can't take much, can it?
It's like, no, fool.
So, yep. Exactly. So it's business side is really important, and I know I have taught myself and learned many lessons through doing those things, but I'd say learn as much as you can. There are some like formal business classes you can take.
Yeah,
Another really good one I would recommend, that immensely helped me, was Stan Winston School. They're an online school, and one of their teachers, Shannon Shea, did a business class on the business of making monsters, and a lot of those
mhm,
rules, if you want to be a puppet builder or just
mhm.
just have some other backgrounds for industry,
Yeah.
that is an amazing class. And
Okay.
that one in particular, I took with him when it was live and got to know him, and he became another one of my wonderful mentors, and
Yeah.
it's helped so much. So can't
That's
recommend
cool,
it
man.
enough. Yeah.
And when you come up with a character's voice, do you come up with the character's character first, or the voice, and then the voice develops the character? How is like your process of developing a character? Or it really depends. It really depends if it's either the voice first or the character first. What's your
Yep.
method?
Yep, exactly. It depends. Sometimes, I'll get a. So that was something really nice with doing the Henson workshop.
Mhm.
They brought in a couple guest teachers, and we got to work with them. So one of the, not to like name shout out, but one of the teachers they brought in was Bob Bergen, and he's the voice of Porky Pig,
Okay.
and like voiceover legend, and we got
Yeah.
to work exclusively with him on developing characters and bringing them to life. um so one thing that was really nice about that was just changing my thinking about it. And especially, I've been doing a lot more auditions lately,
Hmm.
so really just like, okay, is this a new character that's never been done before?
Mhm.
Is there reference images? If there's reference images, sometimes I can just take a look at a character and was like, okay, like that character is going to sound like this. Like,
Yeah,
there's no way he would sound any way different.
gotcha.
And then just play, like, sometimes it's physical traits, and that's something I really love with characters, where it's like maybe it's a tiny little character, and then this tiny character has a really deep voice. Like,
Uh-huh.
there's something kind of comedic
Funny,
about
yeah.
that. Yeah. And other times you just have lines, and you have to figure out who this character is with lines, and that's something for me. I know I'm working on trying to get better at, because that's one thing. Like, there's no visuals. I
Yeah.
I don't know if I no,
Yeah.
but yeah, it all depends. Sometimes it's organic, where here the character's already made, then you find a voice, or other times when I'm building something, usually for myself, I'll go, there's this voice I really love to do, and now I want to
Mhm.
find something that's going to work
To
well with
match
that
with it.
voice.
Right
Yep.
on. Like when I got my puppet Carlos, I was the first time I ever got like a puppet like in this way. Like so me doing like the whole thing and creating a voice for it. It was I felt silly doing it because I never done anything like that before. And my boyfriend, he's all like, "Who are you talking to upstairs?" Like I'm creating a voice. Oh, just leave me alone, because I start getting self conscious about it. So do you even though you've been doing this for a while, do you still get self conscious that people are looking at you as like this guy's talking to himself,
Yep, I know
Yeah,
exactly what you're talking about. A lot of me has embraced it. It's just
yeah,
like, this is part of
this
it.
is it.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, if you want to get into this whole thing, like, it's all, like, that's what it's all about. Especially if you want to be a performer, like, that's what performers do. Like,
yeah,
they're warming up. If they're warming up, they're singers. They want to warm up, like, they're singing by themselves.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure my neighbors love me so much.
I think about the
Yep.
same thing too, because like, I live in an apartment, and sometimes you could hear my neighbor's music, so I know they hear me like talking like, "Hey, everyone," like it's like, what is this guy doing? And
For
I'm pretty
sure.
loud because like the character has to be like he has to project. So yeah, I know, like I'm getting into it, and like I have a lot of respect for you puppeteers, because like my arms started to get tired. And then like my muscle in my thumb was getting like cramped up because I wasn't used to using that muscle. I was like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Because like you think it's just like, oh, you're just putting your hand in the puppet and that's it. No, like you have to do it for like a long period of time, and it has to, like, the hand has to sync with what you're saying, and the character development to like the voice, like it's all like you really think about it until like you actually do it, which I think it's great. Like I'm thinking this is like, for me, this is like a hobby. I would love to do like a kids show eventually, but right now I'm just trying it out. And yeah, it was really fun talking to you today.
No, you too. Yeah, that's what it's all about. It's
Yeah,
all
about having
learn,
fun, right?
play. Yep, and exactly like you said, it's all muscle memory. The more you do it, the more you practice, the easier it'll
Mhm.
get. Like, it's always, I don't care who you are as a puppeteer, it will wear out on you. Like, no matter, like, and there's routines too, like,
Yeah,
there's warm-ups you can do. You can shake out your hands, you can get ready. um and all of it helps. Like,
yeah.
yeah, all of it helps, but it's definitely, the more you practice, the better you'll get. But
Well,
yeah.
thank you, sir. I really appreciate it. We had a great conversation. And for anybody who's been watching Casually Christian today, please remember to follow. What's your handle? What's your Instagram?
Sure,
Uh,
my Instagram, social media is all at Connor Asher, Connor
yeah,
Asher. And if you want to follow my business and more of the puppetry stuff that I do, it's at Creventive, Creventive.
yeah. We have it all right here in the comments. I see the links right here. So if you guys want to follow
Perfect.
Connor, just hit those links, and that'll be great. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, please remember to hit like and subscribe and smash this notification bell to catch the latest episodes of Casually Christians. I really appreciate it. But Connor, until next time, I would love to have you back on and talk about like any future stuff. But until next time, buddy, I'll see you. I'll see you soon.
I would love
I'll
that.
continue to follow you on Instagram. I love your journey so far. It's great.
Thanks so much, Christian. It was great talking to you. And yeah, let's do this again. This is great.
Yeah, for sure. It doesn't have to be puppets. We could talk about anything like movies, comic books, whatever. You seem like a really chill guy, and I still want to have you on for another episode in the future.
That sounds great.
Well, all right, sir. Well, have a good rest of your day. And for those who are watching, if you guys want to produce your own podcast, please hit up my friend Emmanuel's company at Livestream My Event. He'll set you up in the same manner as he did. So until next time, we'll see you guys on Monday for a Monday update. We're going to continue watching spooky videos together on Casually Christian. So please stay tuned for that. And I'll see you guys soon. Have a good weekend. And, don't party too hard. Bye, guys.